Okay, so it's been a while since I've made one of these Yuuzhan Vong invasion videos, so bear with me as I try to remember how to do these, as this is kind of my first video since basic training. In case you didn't know, the Yuuzhan Vong were an alien species which invaded the Star Wars galaxy in the expanded universe using biotech weapons and devastated much of the galaxy in the post-Endor era. However, the Vong were present in the galaxy doing probing and reconnaissance throughout most of galactic history and in the early Old Republic era. So the question for this video is, what if the Yuuzhan Vong invaded during the Dark Wars of the Old Republic era? Now, for those who don't know, the Dark Wars lasted from 3955 BBY to 3951 BBY, which stemmed from the end of the Jedi Civil War after the fall of Darth Malak's Sith Empire. It was also concurrent with the Sith Civil War and the First Jedi Purge, which were also part of the Dark Wars. Basically, many Sith Lords took what was left of Darth Malak's Sith Empire and made smaller Sith Empires. By 3954 BBY, Darth Traya, Darth Nihilus, and Darth Sion had established a Sith Triumvirate, which quickly took control over many of these Sith Empires and established a unified Sith Empire once more. And there were, however, a few minor Sith Warlord kingdoms which were pretty negligent. Now, their goal was, of course, the extinction of the Jedi Order, and instead of ruling the galaxy as they enacted their first Jedi Purge, they only mainly wanted to hunt down and slaughter the remaining 100 Jedi who had survived the Jedi Civil War against Revan's Empire. Under the Sith Triumvirate's leadership, the Sith Empire began the first Jedi Purge, killing most of the Jedi in the galaxy. In 3951 BBY, Jedi Mitra Surik killed Darth Nihilus at the Battle of Telos IV, and later that year she killed Darth Sion and Darth Traya in the Battle of Malachor. Soon afterwards, what remained of the Sith Empire would fall apart. By 3950 BBY, the entire Sith Empire had been destroyed and its territory had been returned to the Galactic Republic. Got the basics of the war? Great, time to get into when the Vong will invade. Like with all the other Yuuzhan Vong invasion videos, I'll describe a couple of battles and give a point during the conflict for the invasion, say what's happening, and give a brief overview of the state of the galaxy at this point in time, as well as a summary of the factions. So the first major battle I'll discuss is the Battle of Telos IV, where the surviving Jedi were able to successfully kill Darth Nihilus. Now, Telos IV had marked the beginning of the end of the Dark Wars and kicked off the downfall of the Sith Triumvirate. Brief overview time, it's a standard Old Republic battle with massive fleets and forces destroying each other with tons of casualties. But mostly, Telos IV had been a big Republic victory with Nihilus's death. The climax of the war was at the Battle of Malachor V, which had been pretty messed up after the Mass Shadow Generator superweapon had created a wound in the Force over the planet during the Mandalorian Wars. Now, during this battle, the Jedi Order would succeed against the Sith, and Darth Sion was killed and Kreia was defeated. Malachor was destroyed in the battle, and the extermination of the Jedi was prevented. To make things interesting, let's have the Vong invasion occur between these two events, right after the death of Darth Nihilus at Telos IV, so the remnants of the Jedi Order have some momentum after the Triumvirate has been dealt a major blow. Yeah, I know, it would have been really cool to see the Yuuzhan Vong's reaction to seeing Darth Nihilus and his all-consuming hunger, but this is a point during the Dark Wars where I feel like all factions as a whole are both very vulnerable and at a point of strength to dictate the terms of the war, with the Vong factor thrown into the mix. The Sith Triumvirate's strength here has Darth Sion, who was the Lord of Pain, as he kept himself alive through pain and the Force. Darth Traya had also been a Jedi Master previously, who had even trained Revan, and once was a Sith Lord. She trained Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus with the only intention of destroying the Jedi Order instead of ruling the galaxy. The Jedi Order at this time is pretty weak, as they were in a period where they were being exterminated. The Dark Wars did have the first Jedi Purge as a concurrent event, so yeah, they're not doing so well. However, the Jedi who remain are fighting against the Triumvirate, are battle-hardened and led by Mandalorian Wars veteran Mitra Surik. The Republic had also lost many troops and ships from Telos IV, so although they won the battle, they're about ready to exhaust remaining resources as the Vong conduct their invasion. And since some total randomer on the internet will probably ask in the comments, the strength of the other Sith warlords not affiliated with the Triumvirate were pretty negligible on a galactic scale and likely wouldn't impact the outcome of the conflict. But I'll say just for the purposes of this video that they get ignored by every faction and will be wiped out entirely by the Vong whenever they try to take advantage of the fact that an extragalactic invader has come. As for the course of the war, I'd say that the Yuuzhan Vong invade and are immediately overwhelmed with pain from, well, the existence of Darth Sion, and of course the wounds in the Force caused by the devastation of Malachor. Although the Vong possess a very limited connection to the Force that would be easily and hastily exploited by the Sith. The Vong are still going to have an onslaught into the galaxy, but it would definitely see the Vong stop their advance as the Empire gathers their strength. The Sith would have to put pause on their extermination of the Jedi Order as the Vong are the more pressing threat, although some within the Sith, such as Darth Traya, would definitely want to defeat the Jedi first, and then worry about the Vong. I think that the Yuuzhan Vong are definitely going to be a more immediate threat to the Sith Empire's rule, and although Kreia would be angry, they would turn their attention over to the Yuuzhan Vong. Secretly, the Sith are glad that Darth Nihilus is dead because although he would be a strong asset in the war eating planets, the Sith feared that his all-consuming hunger would eventually be turned on them, and with Nihilus being the strongest weapon the Sith have, that would have definitely hastened his turning on the rest of the galaxy and likely consuming everything. Anyway, the Sith and Vong wipe out a lot of each other's forces as the Republic rebuilds and the Jedi Order recovers. The slaughter of the Yuuzhan Vong strengthens the Sith until Darth Sion is eventually killed as the Yuuzhan Vong wastes pretty much all of the Imperial and Sith forces which weren't made from a wound in the Force. The Triumvirate would grow pretty weak as the Vong are finally defeated after a few long years of suffering. This is where the Republic would then strike at the very end of the war to bring an end to the Sith rule when Darth Kreia is severely weakened and exhausted of most military forces. Once the Republic restores itself as the galactic hegemon with what forces could be mustered, it's possible that yet another war would then break out within a year because this is the Old Republic. But that is of course just my opinion. What do you think would have happened had the Yuuzhan Vong invaded the galaxy during the Dark Wars of the Old Republic era? Write in the comments and thank you for watching.